very much, and good evening, and welcome to the show. I've been living in England on and off for about 15 years. And people ask me, they say to me, why did you leave Ireland? I left Ireland because it was bloody lonely. The place is full of Japs and Germans. I don't speak the language. How do you say top of the morning to a Jap? He look at you and say, "Ha so." I mean, where else in the world would you be standing by a bus stop but in Ireland and a man will come up and say, "Is it yourself?" You'll say, "No, it's not yourself, it's yourself's brother." He said, "Well, the next time you see yourself, will you give yourself me regard?" He said, "I will." Who was sending him? "Ah, just say himself." The Irish, we have a different approach to life than the English. You see, with the English, the philosophy of life of the English is something like, never do tomorrow what you can do today. The philosophy of the Irish is, never do tomorrow what you can do next Friday, and if you can't do it then, don't bother about it at all. And we speak English, but English is not our language. It's not a real language. Our own language is Gaelic. So consequently, when we do speak English, we speak it differently, or we approach it differently, or we even listen to it differently. If an Englishman were to say to me, "Go and do your own thing," I wouldn't know what the hell he's talking about. My mind would race off on a different angle, and I would say to myself, "It's impossible." So we do take things much more literally. For example, you get what we call the old Jarvey, and he's taken an Englishman up to a hotel which has got a long, long driveway. And after about 20 minutes going up the driveway, the Englishman said, "It's a rather long driveway, this." And the Irishman said, "Well, if it was any shorter, it wouldn't reach the hotel." The Irishman is brought up in court, and the judge looks at him and says, "You have been accused of a felonious crime, and you shall be found guilty or not guilty according to the evidence presented to this court. How do you plead?" The fellow said, "I don't know, Your Honor." He said, "What do you mean you don't know? Do you plead guilty or not guilty?" He said, "I can't plead either, sir. I haven't heard the evidence." Over the years, the Irish have had a relationship with the English. Many Irish people have joined what is known as the British Army. People like Wellington, Kitchener, French, Montgomery, Alexander, O'Gorman, Timoshenko. This is a story about an Irishman who joined his British Army, and he eventually winds up as being a batman to a colonel. And after a campaign in the North African desert, a ghibli or a blizzard blows up, and they get lost. And they roam around the desert for 3 days until they eventually come to the Nile, and they're both dying of thirst. And the colonel says, "Go and get me some water from the Nile." And the sergeant comes back, and he says, "Sir, they can't go near the water. It's full of crocodiles. And I'm terrified out of the life out of me by them big jaws going." The colonel said, "Well, don't be silly. Those crocodiles are more frightened of you than you are of them." He said, "In that case, sir, the water is not fit to drink." This is a story about a fellow who's working on the building site. And the general foreman comes to me and he says, "I'm going to give you an intelligence test because I'm thinking of making you the assistant foreman. And it all depends how you get on with this intelligence test." And he says, "Right, I'm ready. Right, fire away. Throw the questions at me." "I'm ready." He says, "Right." He said, "What have you got two of? They're on your feet, and you walk to work in them every morning." God, that's a hard one. No idea. He said, a pair of boots! You fool! Shall we try again? What have you got two pairs of? You put them on your feet. One of them you walk to work in, you work in and you walk home. The other pair you put on your feet and you go out dancing. Do you have any easy ones? God, that's a terribly difficult question to ask any man. I have no idea. He said, two pairs of boots, you fool! He said, last question now. He said, what stands 4.5 feet high, has got horns, udders, gives milk, and goes, would be God. Would it be 3 pairs of boots? Well, a lot of people think that the Irish come across here because of work, economics, or even religious persecution. It's got nothing to do with that. The reason we come to your country is because over here, you're a permissive society. In Ireland, we're not. Here, you have sex before marriage. In Ireland, we do not. We come to get our share. The Irish are very good at populating other countries. In more ways than one. So for all you know, you might be laughing at your brother. The 2 Irish fellows talking about sex before marriage, and one tells the other, he said, what do you think about sex before marriage? He said, I don't think about it. He said, well, I know I never had sex with my wife before we were married. Did you? He said, I've no idea. What's her name? The Irish, a strange nation of people, the Irish. We laugh at death. We laugh at drinking. We even laugh at the English. But one of the main sources of Irish humor comes from religion. We laugh at religion. We don't laugh. We laugh. Otherwise you get a telegram from Rome telling you you're finished. I got a dressing room full of them. And people come to me and say, what is the Church of Rome really like? The Church of Rome is a conservative church. I don't mean by that they vote for Ted Heath. Conservative in their attitude. And many people feel that they're too conservative, that the attitude of the church today is too conservative. And this is why we have this creeping liberalism within the church from priests. Priests want to do away with the celibacy laws. They want to get married. I don't know how you feel about a priest getting married, but I feel that if a priest meets another priest and they like one another, sure. Here comes the first telegram. There's only one man who's ever got the better of God, and that was Moses. When God called Moses to the mount to give him the 10 commandments, God looked at Moses and said, Moses, would you like the commandments? And Moses looked at him and he said, how much are they? And God said nothing, and Moses said, I'll take 10. Man is a naturally superstitious animal. We're superstitious about rather odd things. We're superstitious about taking a third light from a cigarette. We're superstitious about knocking over salt. We're superstitious about walking under ladders. In the Royal Navy years ago, there used to be a superstition in which it was thought that it was unlucky to allow a ship to sail on a Friday. And the government of that day, to lay this superstition, decided to have a ship commissioned on a Friday. The keel was laid on a Friday. The ship was launched on a Friday. It was named HMS Friday, and it made its maiden voyage on a Friday. The superstition was laid to rest, except for one thing. The ship and the crew were never, ever heard of again. Don't doubt me, that's a true story. It's a true story. We're superstitious about numbers. I don't know about you, but I have a lucky number. My lucky number is 5. And I was at the Dogs the other night. And I waited to the fifth race. I waited to 5 minutes before the fifth race. I picked out the fifth bookie. I went to him, and I put £5 to win on number 5. And you're right, he came in fifth.